welcome to the channel if you're new here, and welcome back if you're a subscriber or visited before. We're going to continue with part 3 of the Tamiya Messerschmitt BF109 G-6 in 1/72 scale, full build. Now what we're going to do with the first section is basically we're gluing everything together. As you can see here, I'm putting the two parts of the cockpit that I left separate. We're gluing them together, getting ready to put inside the fuselage. I left them separate, as you remember, because I wanted to put the decal on the instrument panel and it gave better access there. So I'm just making sure there's nothing on it before I lay it aside. We're going to glue the two halves of the fuselage together. I mean, they went together very easy. I was giving it a look all over to make sure there was no gaps or anything, and it just really fit well. At first here I thought there was a gap near the cockpit area, and all it was actually was a little bit of overspray from the black primer that I put in there. Looking in the instructions, it actually does say there's supposed to be panel line running down the top and bottom anyway, so you shouldn't like sand it down and fill it, because it's supposed to be there. So just make sure that it's sitting together nice and tight and there's no steps or anything. Right, once that's done, we can start putting the engine cowling parts on. Works out, I think there's 4 of them. So that's the first side on. Now we're going for the second side. And again, the fit is great. Really pleased with this model at the moment. Now doing the top half. The guns are also including that top half. So I was thinking of drilling the ends out, but I really can't get a drill in there to do that. Right, now here goes the air intake. Checking it all over and putting the cockpit itself in. And the cockpit went in fantastic, and it just drops in. I love the way Tamiya do this, where it's a drop in rather you glue to one side and then you have to glue the other side of the fuselage to it. It seems to make it a bit more easy. All I did here was just a little bit of extra thin along the top of the instrument panel. Just give it a nudge with a pair of tweezers just to make sure it lines up well with the top of the fuselage. Now what we're doing is sticking the bottom half of the engine cowling on. Yep, straight in there, no problems at all. I'm really enjoying this kit. Now this is the rear part of the cockpit, and it lines up with the the rear of the canopy as well. Again, went on great, no steps, fitted like a glove. And it's coming together really nicely. I'm going to put on, start putting the tail section together, the elevators and then the tail itself with the rudder attached. You can't actually adjust the angle of the rudder, so basically put it on and that's it. Now comes to the wings. Again, very simple. I just put a little bit of Tamiya extra thin around the edges just to pop into place at first, and then just run around the seams. The actual build, I'm surprised how simple it is compared to like the FX Spitfire did. I mean, it's not, the FX Spitfire is not complicated, but it didn't feel as smooth as the Tamiya. For some reason I put Tamiya extra thin around the edge, the outside edge of the wing. I don't know why. There was no need to do that. Right, I'm putting the other part of the wing together. As you can see, it's gone together really easy. And I'm going to have a look once it's dry tomorrow, and then I'm going to check the leading edge of the wings, but it didn't appear that it needed sanding or anything or smoothing off, but I will probably give it a little go over. Just finalising assembling the wing assembly as far as I want to go before main painting, that is. Now what we do is we attach it to the actual fuselage. You've got to slot the back in first, and then drop the front in, give it a little jiggle, and then it just snaps into place. And you really, there's no seam line. I mean, you can see there's a line there, but it's not like there's a gap you've got to worry about on the wing root. I'm just loving the way this is fitting. It's really, really nice. So this is as far as we're going to go with assembly before the main paint. because the rest of the stuff will go on top. As you can see also, they've put the canopies on and masked them off, ready for painting. Right, now we move on to the next stage, which is we're going to put down some black primer. Now this is preparation for something I want to try a little bit later on, which could be a complete disaster. But all I'm doing now is putting like a light coat down first, just to see how we get on. Then like a second light coat down, and after that I'm going to put down a couple of sort of like wet coats. The primer is just like the BF109 black primer, but hopefully I'll get a decent coverage on it, and in preparation for the next stage. I think I've got the airbrush set at about 21 psi, and I'm using a 50-50 mix with 50% BF109 black primer and 50% flow improver. It went down really nice as well, yeah. And now as you can see, we get some decent coverage on it now. As you can see also, the front half and the rear of the cockpit I've added, and I've masked that off. Right, so basically there you have it. The aircraft's primed. I'm going to leave it overnight before I move on to the next stage. Right, now we're going to move on to the black basing itself, and I'm going to leave this small section at normal speed so you can see how much of a disaster it is for me at the beginning. My airbrush control is terrible. It's probably a technique I should have waited a while to try, but I did keep going, and I did find that I did get it. I did get the airbrush control, or get close to it, so I was really glad that I managed to persevere with it. Now you'll just see over and over again I get splats, I hit the trigger too hard, because the paint's nice and thinned, it just causes a complete like spider in and everything. But I'm still trying to figure out, still trying to get that biting point here. It's a 30% mix anyway, so it's only 30% paint. But you watch, you know, I do, there's several places now where actually, boom, I get splats of paint onto the surface. There you go. Oh, again, it's a disaster. And I'm thinking to myself at this point, really, should I pursue this, you know? Should I just paint it black again and then just do it, and again? I'm thinking of just like re-priming it and just doing normal coats on it. But in the back of my head, I said I really wanted to do this technique, so I will keep going. And again, we made that mistake yet again. But I've speeded it up again now, because I did, like I said, I did carry on and keep going. And you'll see at the end of when I finish this colour that all those splatters that you can see on that starboard wing, on the side of that starboard wing, you cannot see once it's done. And don't forget also that you're gonna put a unifying layer over the top, which will blend it in even more. So at this point, what I'm trying to get across is, if this sort of thing happens yet, don't give up. Don't say you've destroyed it. Carry on, because at the end of the day, you're going to go over it again and again to bring up all this nice sort of light effect that you're going for. Then you're going to put a unifying layer over the top, and I was really pleased with how this colour came out. Okay, I stopped at this point because obviously you wouldn't want to see me doing the whole aircraft in this sort of underside colour, and I moved on to the white, which goes on the wingtips and onto the actual rudder, and basically I did the same thing again. And now I'm more confident with the airbrush. I'm definitely really feeling as if I'm enjoying it now. I'm not so much worried about making mistakes. So and this is one thing I didn't really intend to do when I was thinking of black basing. I was just going to do the base colour all over, and then I watched quite a few videos on YouTube, and I've seen like a few guys who are really good at this sort of stuff, and every colour that they put on, they use as a base colour for black basing. So this is why I'm doing, because these tips of the wings are going to be white and the rudder is going to be white, so I moved to the black basing in white, and I'm going to do the same for the camo. Right, now we move on to the upper side of the aircraft, the BF109, and we start doing the camouflage pattern. I did do a light pencil line to delineate the colours, and I carried on doing the same sort of mottled patterns all over. This is the RLM 75, and the other colour we'll be using will be the RLM 74, which is sort of like, the 74 is a grey green and the 75 is sort of like a violet green, violet grey. Right, we jumped ahead now and finished off the RLM 75, and now we're on to the RLM 74, which is the grey-green. I am finding that there's quite a large variation in pigment strength in these Bay Airhill model air paints. This RLM 74 doesn't seem as strong as maybe the RLM 75, and is that because the RLM 75 is a dark, light, sort of a light colour against the black, and the RLM 74, the grey-green, is sort of a dark colour against a dark colour? I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem to come through as well. It takes a lot more work to try and get the strength of the colour to show. And later on, I think this is going to be a problem for me when I do the actual opaque coat. Well, not so much opaque coats, where I do the actual unifying coat over the top of this. Right, now we'll jump ahead to the completed paint job, and all we've got to do then is move on to the unifying layers, which is the next part of the process. Right, we're going to move on to the unifying layers. You probably noticed by the model that I actually went over it again to make it a bit more, the underlying layer a bit more opaque, because what I wanted to do was this unifying layer, I wanted to use a really thin mix so I can actually gradually build up the opacity to a level that I wanted to. So the mix is like 20% paint and an 80% sort of flow improver. What I'm going to do is basically just go over the aircraft, and as you can see, I'm just going over and over and over, bringing up the opacity. I think, right, this is the RLM 76, I think it is. Yeah, this is RLM 76 that we're doing right now. So this is sort of like the sort of like bluey sort of like colour that's on the underside of the BF109. And it takes quite a while for the opacity to start coming through, but what it does do, because you're using a really low or a really thinned paint, you can actually sort of control when you stop. And what I have noticed as well is you've got to leave each layer to dry for a bit, because once it's dry, it's different from what you see when when you first put the layer on. So you've got to give it a chance to dry, and then you'll know if you need to add another coat, and you just keep going like that till you get the effect you want. I was really pleased how this came out, funny enough. So we're just going to finish off doing the RLM 76 before we move on to the next stage. Right then, we moved on to the mottling stage now, and I was pretty terrified of doing this actually because I didn't really butcher it, and consequently my hand was pretty much mostly in focus because I had my head so close to the model that was everything's it didn't record that well. Anyway, we started off with the RLM 74, which I'd already got in the airbrush from doing the Unifying layers, and I was really enjoying it, and it was going really well. But the most frustrating thing about this was the airbrush, funny enough. It is the most basic airbrush that Gallery do, but the thing is there's no consistent sort of level where the trigger starts delivering paint. So I'm constantly having to try and figure out when it's going to put paint out. There was the usual bit of tip drying, which you always expect anyway from airbrushes, but there was never like a single point. It's not a place where I could have a bit of muscle memory where I could actually I knew exactly where the biting point was. I always had to try and fiddle about with the trigger to try and figure out the biting point of the paint delivery. And when it comes to mottling, this is what I was like most nervous about, because I didn't really want a big blotch of paint just splatting onto the aircraft. But it did go well. I mean, I was really tentative about doing it, and it did go well. And there we go, we're off camera again. So I did manage to get it down. After the RLM 74, we obviously moved on to, I cleaned the brush out and we went on to RLM 75, which is the sort of like a violet grey. And I did a load of that over the sides, and I was really pleased how it was going. And like I said, the only frustrating thing was the airbrush because of the biting point. I couldn't get a consistent biting point. Anyway, that's the end of the paint section of this build. So in the next build, what we're going to do is going to move on to decals, weathering, and then final assembly. I hope you enjoyed it so far, even though the recording wasn't 100% the way I would have preferred it to be. But this is what it looks at the moment, and I am actually quite pleased with how the mottling came out, even though I had quite a bit of frustration doing it. But I hope you enjoyed seeing the build so far. If you did enjoy it, please hit the like button, and if you consider subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to click the little belly button as well, so you're notified of the next build when it goes up. And I'll see you guys later.